Good morning, everyone. Today, as we are gathering our prelude, the piece Festive March by African-American composer Florence Price. This prelude, this festive march, will also be our visual pride parade as we start the service. Congregants have submitted pictures showing their pride in Quincy and beyond, and on our church building at Q Pride Festival and beyond. So we will take in these images and this joyful music in a spirit of celebration and also remembrance, knowing that within some of these pictures and around many of these pictures, there are also experiences of struggle and loss and hardship. And so in the spirit of remembrance and joy and resilience, perseverance and celebration, let us join in this festive march. Good morning. Welcome to United First Parish Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, welcome to our Unitarian Universalist spiritual community. We are delighted to welcome anyone who may be visiting with us this morning. You can learn more about our community by going to our website, ufpc.org. I'm the Reverend Rebecca Froom. Our worship leaders this morning on screen and behind screen include our Director of Religious Education, Joan McDonald, our music director, Norman Corey, our digital usher, Jamie Grassman, and our digital greeter, Sarah Belfort. Chris Jackson and David Downs will also be joining us for the chalice lighting, and our music includes a piece by our UFPC virtual choir. The order of service for today can be downloaded from our website, and we will also be pasting lyrics to hymns as we go along in the chat. We do encourage folks to leave your cameras on for these online services so that we might see one another face to face and screen to screen, especially during the sharing of joys and sorrows. That said, we know that Zoom fatigue is very real, so if turning off your camera will help you be most present here today, then please do so. And note that we are recording this morning's service to be posted on YouTube at a later date. We invite folks to stay online after the service for our virtual social hour. Today is also the Q Pride Festival at Pageant Field in Quincy, so I know myself and some others will not be staying for social hour today as we make our way to Pageant Field itself. But Joan and others will be here in our Zoom room for folks who wish to converse after the service. As we begin our service, we acknowledge that our building stands on the traditional lands of the Neponset Band of the Massachusetts people, a community that has lived here for untold generations and continues to live here this day. We acknowledge that during the almost 400 years of our congregation's history, we have had a complicated and in many ways harmful relationship with our Indigenous neighbors. In this moment of living history, let us strive and work for a world of justice, equity, and inclusion. And now let us center ourselves for worship by taking a deep breath together, feeling that spirit of life and love that moves within, between, and beyond us all. We enter this sacred time by lighting our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. If you have a chalice or a candle at home, we encourage you to go ahead and kindle the flame from wherever you may be as David Downs and Chris Jackson share a chalice lighting reading.
Good morning. For the chalice lighting this morning, we chose a poem by Walt Whitman called "We Two Boys Together Clinging." It was published for the first time in the 1855 edition of Leaves of Grass.
We two boys, together clinging, one the other never leaving.
Up and down the roads going, north and south excursions making.
Power enjoying, elbows stretching, fingers clutching.
Armed and fearless, eating, drinking, sleeping, loving.
No law less than ourselves owning. Sailing, soldiering, thieving, threatening.
Misers, menials, priests alarming. Air breathing, water drinking. On the turf or the sea beach dancing.
Cities wrenching, ease scorning. Statues mocking, feebleness chasing.
Fulfilling our foray.
And now, please join me in saying the words of our covenant, which are on the screen and good. Please join me in reading the words of our covenant on the screen and in the chat. As the free fellowship of this historic church, we unite to lift our hearts and open our minds to a larger reality, to accept, support, and encourage one another, to seek the wisdom in all religions, to cherish and sustain the web of life, and to strive for justice, compassion, and peace. And now let us raise our voices in song to sing hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
Come thou fount of every blessing, to our hearts to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. For the hope of His perfection fills our hearts with joy and love. Teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of mournful silence, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of His day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earthly fairest heaven above.
Our message for all ages this morning is the children's storybook, Julian is a Mermaid, written by Jessica Love. It will be narrated by Joan McDonald. And this is a beautiful picture book that tells a story visually with some words as well. But we encourage you, as you are able, to truly look at the screen shares of the pictures as much as you listen to the words.
Julian is a mermaid. This is a boy named Julian, and this is his abuela, and those are mermaids. Julian loves mermaids. Vámonos, mijo. This is our stop. Abuela, did you see the mermaids? I saw them, mijo. Abuela, I am also a mermaid. I'm going to take a bath. You be good, she tells him. Oh, she exclaims. Uh-oh, he replies. Come here, mijo. For me, abuela? For you, Julian. Where are we going? You'll see, says abuela. Mermaids, whispers Julian. Like you, mijo. Let's join them. And they do. The end.
The sharing of our joys and sorrows, we create a sacred space where we are deeply present with one another and the stirrings of our own hearts. Knowing that a sorrow shared is a sorrow diminished, and a joy shared is a joy magnified. If you wish to briefly acknowledge a joy or a sorrow from your hearts, we invite you to raise your hand in a moment and unmute your microphone when our digital usher, Jamie, calls you by name. Let us open our hearts to one another. As we end our sharing, I will light a candle for all of those joys and all of those sorrows that we hold silently in the sanctuary of our hearts. May the light of these candles and the compassion of this community remind us that wherever we are on our journey, each of us is worthy of love, and each of us is able to love. Let us take a deep breath together, feeling that life-giving gift of oxygen move through our bodies. Let us take a deep breath together, perhaps rolling our shoulders back, wiggling our fingers or our toes. Let us take a deep breath together, appreciating the gift of our bodies, the gift of this day, as we enter a time of shared silent meditation. Will you lift your hearts and join me in the spirit of prayer, listening in these words for the language of faith most meaningful to you? Eternal presence, known by many names, known in many ways. We gather this morning as a community of care and connection, a community that is experiencing joys so much that we can be grateful for, especially the ability to connect with one another. In this time of long days, so many of us have the renewing opportunity to connect with one another, eye to eye, smile to smile, feeling the sun on our faces, feeling the glow of hope and joy in our hearts. We hold in our hearts those who are struggling with their health, struggling with grief. We hold in our hearts those who care for beloveds, be they people or pets, who are struggling with their health. May we find ways to keep one another safe in body, in spirit, in mind. In this time of so much transition and change, we give thanks for the beauty of the earth, for the ways in which nature has the power to hold and to heal us. Spirit of life, spirit of love, source of our being. In this Pride Month, we celebrate all the ways in which we express our humanity, all the ways in which we recognize one another's humanity, a shared humanity, whatever our gender, whatever our sexuality, whatever our family composition. In this Pride Month, we remember the struggles of the past and the struggles that are ongoing. We open our hearts in grief and sorrow as we approach the 5-year anniversary of the shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, remembering the 49 people whose lives were taken that day by hate. We open our hearts in prayer that these acts of hate will stop, that people will be able to live their fullness in their families, in their communities, so that everyone can dance in joy. We ask this in the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, present and absent. We ask this in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Amen, and blessed be. Our reflection music this morning is the hymn, I Know This Rose Will Open, arranged and performed by Dr. Glenn Thomas Rideout. Join in singing as you feel so moved.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know, 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 This rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear, I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear, I know my soul will unfurl its wings. Open, feel, open soul will unfold its wings. Open rose will open.
Our reading this morning is titled, "To the People Who Have Mistaken Freedom for Liberation," written by the Unitarian Universalist minister and poet Reverend Teresa Soto. And Reverend Soto writes from their experience as a minister, a person of color, a transgender person, and a person living with disabilities. Here are these words of poetry. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky, blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise. Several years ago, our congregation hosted a forum organized by the group Freedom Massachusetts that later ran the Yes on 3 campaign to advocate and protect transgender rights here in Massachusetts. And towards the end of this forum, I was chatting with some of the organizers, some of the folks from media that were there, and I spoke with someone perhaps my age or a little younger, and they shared with me that this was the first time they ever felt comfortable in a church building. And we were in the parish hall, not here in the sanctuary. And yet this was the first time feeling comfortable in a church in any way. I held that moment with this young photographer. And later I found myself wondering, what was it that had them feel so comfortable? Was it that we hosted this event, creating space for these ongoing efforts of community organizing? Was it that everyone entered the parish hall by going underneath the rainbow flag that hangs above our steps there? Was it that they knew our flag had been hanging there for over a decade at the time of this conversation? Perhaps all of these things, perhaps none of these things, probably some combination of these things. Behind me, we see a different rainbow flag than the one hanging above our parish hall. This flag is known as the Progress Pride flag, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Preparing for this service, I spent a little time researching the history of pride flags. And this is a history that some of you may know, that some of you have lived, and let us hear it again. There are many symbols that people have adopted over the decades in movements for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, and other identities. And the most common one that likely you have seen at our church and all around us these days is the 6-stripe rainbow pride flag. Now, the first rainbow pride flag didn't have 6 stripes, it had 8 stripes. It was designed by Gilbert Baker in 1978 in San Francisco. And for various graphic design reasons, it evolved from 8 stripes to 6 stripes. Hot pink was hard to find. Indigo and turquoise were combined into one color, blue. And over time, this flag became more and more present. We heard in our reading this morning from Reverend Soto, they write, being free is not a license, but a promise. And flags and other visual symbols are so important to us to remember the promise, to come together as a community and say, this is part of who we are and part of who we stand for. This flag is one symbol, perhaps among many, of the promises we make to one another. So what does the rainbow pride flag mean for us? What are the promises that we make to one another and our wider world underneath these rainbow flags? In our Unitarian Universalist heritage, we have long believed and affirmed the inherent worth and value of all human beings, have honored that each of us are worthy of love, that each of us are able to love, that all of us are capable of growth, that we share the responsibility to notice, honor, and advocate for one another's humanity. United First Parish Church first hung our rainbow flag outside the parish hall as part of going through the Welcoming Congregations project within Unitarian Universalism. To become a welcoming congregation, a Unitarian Universalist congregation does some study and shared reflection about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer experiences and causes. I will, for the rest of this sermon, use the acronym you've probably seen of LGBTIQ+, is also there. And as part of the welcoming congregation work, there is study, there is reflection, and it is not supposed to be purely a mental exercise, but also becomes an internal conversation of how do we make ourselves welcoming for everyone who enters the door, for everyone who is already here, for all of the people who have yet to come, who are seeking, perhaps with a mix of fear and excitement, seeking a religious home in which they can feel safe, accepted, seen. These flags are a promise. And in 2018, graphic designer Daniel Quasar designed this new Progress flag, Progress Pride flag. In addition to the 6 stripes that are so familiar to many of us, there's an additional 5 stripes coming in from this triangle to the side. The white, pink, and blue stripes that are seen on the transgender flag, and also a brown and a black stripe representing the experiences of people of color. And the black stripe also recognizes all of those who were lost to the AIDS crisis and to oppression and suffering, a line of grief in the midst of all of these rainbows of celebration. And as he's spoken about this design, Daniel Quasar chose to have the white, pink, blue, brown, and black stripes be in a triangle entering from the side to show the movement that continues to happen within a movement. Remember, that being free is not a license, but a promise. I recognize that I stand here from a place of privilege, a white, middle-class, English-speaking American who is cisgender, meaning my gender identity matches the sex, my biological sex at birth. A person who has been in straight relationships. I'm seen for who I am, and so I stand here from a place of privilege, trying to stand in a place of humility, knowing that I hurt people unintentionally, hoping that I can continue to learn as an individual. And I stand here as a Unitarian Universalist minister, hoping, knowing that there is so much more that we as a community will continue to learn about ourselves, about one another, here within these stone walls, here beyond the stone walls in our virtual space. And so much to learn about the struggles that happen beyond our church, throughout our country, throughout the globe. This flag, this new progress flag, honors, illustrates that movements for freedom and justice are intersectional. All of us have our own unique identities. Some of us carry many aspects of privilege. Some of us live with many aspects that are oppressed or marginalized in our society. And many of us hold a mixture of these identities. While this flag design may be new, the idea that the movements for racial equality, for transgender equality, for lesbian and gay equality, the understanding that these are intersecting movements is not new. Going back to the Stonewall riots that kicked off the LGBTQ civil rights movement in America, we see in that important pivotal moment the intersectionality of movements. At the bar that night, there were drag queens and transgender people, gay people, some lesbian people, and people of color. People whose multiplicity of marginalized identities can so often be overlooked. And so as we now highlight the intersectional struggles against racism and for LGBTQ equality, it's important to remember that those intersectional movements have always been there. Let us promise to one another that we will honor and not erase the complexity of history. Last summer, right around this time, we witnessed a huge reckoning with race and racism in America. The killing, the murder of George Floyd by police showed how much violent racism was embedded in our institutions, how much was needed to change. In that moment of reckoning, many people's eyes were opened anew to see the struggles of intersectional organizing for justice. And looking at the racial reckoning with racism that we've been in the midst of for the last decade, looking at the role of police brutality in that reckoning, I remember that the story of Stonewall was also a story of police brutality, of abuse of power, of corruption. And so these struggles have been and are interconnected. So friends on the journey, what do we promise beneath our rainbow flags? Let us promise one another open hearts, Let us promise that we will see one another as fully as possible. Let us promise one another that we will continue to learn. Let us promise one another that when we mess up, we'll say sorry and try again. Let us promise to one another that our space in our building and beyond our building, that our space can be shared with people working for so many causes of justice. Let us remember that freedom comes with responsibility. Let us continue to grow, to learn, and to love. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. Our anthem this morning is the song "This Is Me" from the musical The Greatest Showman. And this version is performed by an LGBTQ virtual choir. It was created this past October for National Coming Out Day.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say. We don't want your broken parts.
I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say. No one will love you as you are, but
I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious.
when the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. We are warriors, and that's what we are. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. This is me. And I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I'm not worth.
when the sharpest words want to cut me down,
I'm gonna send a flood, I'm gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.
look out, 'cause here I come.
Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on, yeah, yeah. Hey, this is me. Hey,
That was nice. Our church is sustained through the gifts of the members and friends of this congregation. Your generosity makes it possible for us to hold online worship services, workshops, and small groups, even in these unusual times. Your generosity allows us to be faithful stewards of our historic building so that it will continue to be a place of sanctuary and learning when it is once again safe to gather in person. Your generosity helps us strive for justice and live our congregation's values in the wider world. Please take this moment to visit our website and consider clicking the donate button located on the homepage of our website, ufpc.org. May these gifts to support the good works of United First Parish Church be joyfully given and gratefully received.
Let us return to that breath of life and love. I invite you to place your hands over your heart for these words of benediction, also from the Reverend Soto. The thing you must be is yourself, unadulterated, shedding the willingness to journey alone as though you are made of something hard and unforgivable. You are human. You belong right here, right now. And together we will chase away the sickness, the secrets, and leave only the open possibility that the future is a space for growth. May we go in peace and go in love to be a blessing to the world. Amen. Join me in singing Carry the Flame as we extinguish our chalice. Here at United First Parish Church, there are many ways to be involved on Zoom, in our gardens, on Sunday services and beyond. The screen shows some of our ongoing programs, including the Thursday afternoon Standout Quincy for Black Lives. All are welcome. I'll also mention that an ongoing program is volunteering in our beautiful gardens. So contact Claire Fitzmaurice to learn more about that, or contact David Bosquin in the church office and he can connect you as well. Claire and Sarah Belfort and Kate Hurley and my family worked together in the gardens yesterday, and it was just so good to have hands in soil together. Today is the Q Pride Festival happening at Pageant Field from 12 until 4. We'll be having a interfaith blessing of the rainbow flag at 12:30. It features drag performances, a puppy pride parade and contest, puppet performances, food, vendors, and more. We will have a table there and we invite you to stop by. At the end of this month is our virtual General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Registration it's all happening online. Registration, I believe, is $200, and scholarships are available through the Ministerial Discretionary Fund. So please consider attending that. And we have some special upcoming services as we draw towards the close of our worship year. Next Sunday, June 13th, is our bridging ceremony, and the Sam Hurley and Will Cook, our graduating seniors, will be here in the sanctuary with Joan and I for that special service. And 2 weeks from now is our annual flower ceremony service. And as we continue in online services, we will have a flower communion slideshow. So please do send me your favorite pictures of flowers. Flowers from your garden, flowers from the church garden, flowers from far away. Just send us pictures of flowers, and we will be able to partake in that beauty together 2 weeks from now. And this afternoon, we are going to keep this Zoom room open for a virtual social hour for folks to connect in conversation and community. Note, some of us will be signing right off to go up to Pageant Field and join Marie Louise, Albert, and Elizabeth, who are already there getting us set up. So thank you all for being here this morning, and we will continue to connect screen to screen or rainbow to rainbow at Pageant Fields.